devil in all of us. Now there's a game that feeds it. Taz Wanted. Bad habits have never been this much fun. Rated E for everyone.
Imagine this, it's the 2000s and you're homesick from school, or you successfully tricked your parents into thinking you were sick, you little rascal. Now you get to stay home, play video games, and watch Cartoon Network all day, but the shows they're playing are a bit different from usual. Instead of Ben 10, Foster's, or My Gym Partner's a Monkey, hey, you better watch what you're saying that around. Listen, I know what you mean, that's clearly a cartoon spider monkey voiced by Tom Kenny, but most aren't going to think of that when you say that. You're instead seeing Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes. Most already know that Cartoon Network came to be because Ted Turner was acquiring the rights to God knows how many animated shows to start a channel that was animation 24/7. Because people of all ages like cartoons.
The cartoon audience is a whopping 44.6% adults. That's about one adult for every kid watching.
But it didn't take long for the studio to start making their own original animated series, though they would always leave some room for the shows that made this network a reality. But why show them at those hours when kids were at school? You just answered your own question, dummy. It would be pretty dumb to air shows that are more familiar to a younger audience during a time when they can't watch TV. The grown-ups, however, are more likely to have the free time to tune in, assuming they didn't just come home after spending 20 hours in the bloody mines! So they'd broadcast shows that they were more familiar with, like the Looney Tunes. Out of this library of wacky characters, the Taz Manian Devil was particularly popular, being featured in most Looney Tunes projects, getting his own show in the form of Taz Mania, being the second Looney Tune added to Multiversus, and getting several video games, including the one we're talking about today, Taz Wanted.
You're driving up my blood pressure!
Yosemite Sam invades Tasmania and kidnaps both Taz and the She-Devil. The Tasmanian Devil gets locked inside the Yosemite Zoo as the meanest, toughest hellboy in the West tries to turn Taz's island into a theme park. Taz breaks out and must find a way to get back home, find She-Devil, and stop Sam. The story is serviceable, and that's to be expected. This is a Looney Tunes video game. If you're expecting something like The Last of Us or The Story of Undertale, then you're genuinely insane. Visually, this game looks great. Minus some awkward animations here and there, they really did a good job with the presentation of the game. All the characters have a cel-shaded look with a thick outline, and the environments look colorful and perfectly cartoony, even if they may be very blocky. The audio was pretty good too. If you constantly spin with Taz, the noise that plays continuously gets higher in pitch. They really knew their stuff when it came to the presentation of the game. Minus the cutscenes that look very awkward, and the voice acting that sounds very muffled for whatever reason.
Here, birdie! Stand still, sparrow!
Weirdly enough, the presentation of the game reminds me of the Fairly OddParents Breaking the Rules. It's almost just like Taz Wanted, even down to the muffled voices.
Gee, hon, I'm not sure we've got time to read comic books.
I'm not sure I'm able to read comic books.
Aw, but I haven't read the latest issue yet. Maybe I could get some ideas from the Crimson Chin.
And it's not a coincidence either, as both titles were developed by Blitz Games. Their track record is a bit spotty, as most of their games are licensed titles that can range from surprisingly good to what you would normally expect from these type of games. I don't know about you, but Brad's Forever Diamonds and iCarly on the Wii are genuine masterpieces. If you disagree, I respect your opinion, but you're wrong still, and you should be very ashamed. But they also develop games that many would regard as genuinely good, like Frogger 2, Swampy's Revenge, Fusion Frenzy, and Pac-Man World 3. Such a bizarre studio. The only thing about the presentation that some may not like is the music. Many associate Looney Tunes with orchestra or classical music, but since this is a game that released in 2002, they decided to use rock music instead. Look, the music isn't bad. Some of the tracks are actually really good, but this might not be the genre that many would think fits in line with the Looney Tunes. Same goes for The Simpsons Hit and Run. But hey, I don't have a problem with it. I miss when rock music played in children's cartoons. It genuinely fucks! You're probably wondering why the game is called Taz Wanted. Well, after breaking out of his cage, Yosemite puts wanted signs all over the place, all with Taz's face on them. He must destroy every single one in each level to progress. Think of this game as something like Super Mario 64, where you have these semi-big open levels that all have a special collectible hidden around the stage that are required to beat the game. But instead of stars, it's signs. Each one can either be destroyed on arrival, or they'll require you to solve some kind of puzzle to break them another way. A lot of these methods will need some trial and error, but it's not the exact same as Mario 64 or similar titles like Sunshine or Odyssey. One major difference is that in Mario's adventures, you don't have to collect every star, moon, or shine sprite to complete a level. You can leave some behind and move on to the next stage, and come back to get everything else later. But in Taz Wanted, you must destroy every sign to be able to move on to the next stage. This wouldn't be so bad, but some of these signs can be really confusing to reach. Sure, you can open a map to tell you where the signs are, but that doesn't tell you how to reach or destroy them, just their general location. Sometimes the method to destroy a sign is in a completely different spot on the map. At times, I'm left wandering around the stage like a dip trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do to get to the next sign that's just out of reach. This wouldn't be so bad if I was able to move on to the next stage after destroying 5 out of the 7 signs, instead of making me get them all. I realize that this is the biggest problem of the game, and I think that many would regard this game as one of the better licensed titles of the era if they had a minimum number to progress. Imagine if in Mario 64, you had to get every single star in a level before leaving the stage. That would make some of the most iconic levels in the game so much more annoying. Even completionists would want the freedom to leave a stage incomplete so they can come back and finish it later. Hell, some of the game is even designed around that, considering that you have to unlock some of the power-ups needed to complete these areas. Now, that may make it seem like that I think this game is bad. Far from it. I actually think this is a pretty solid licensed game. Each level is filled to the brim with destructible environments. Trees, crates, statues, and other such things are placed all over the level. While it's not required to do so, you can try and destroy everything in that level. As you spin through the area, a percentage will appear in the top right corner, showing you how much of the level has been wiped out. And you'll even hear the disembodied voice of Yosemite Sam say the same 3 lines over and over with little to no space between them. That's genius when you consider the target demographic. Not Sam's voice lines, mind you, the destruction. Some kids just want to destroy stuff without getting in trouble. They'll take the time to build big structures with wooden blocks just to smack it down as soon as they're done. Hell, a lot of us adults like to see stuff get destroyed as well. Why do you think some people go to monster truck rallies or rage rooms? Violence is a part of our culture. Nay, our history. From tossing barrels of tea during the Boston Tea Party to any great struggle throughout time, it is a necessary evil we use to change the world, letting our corporate rulers remember that we outnumber them by the thousands and we can easily tear down their empire. And for some reason, we just don't do that. I really don't get it. But what I do get is how satisfying the spin attack is. Taz is known to spin in a tornado-like formation and destroy everything in his way. I've already mentioned how the sound keeps getting higher in pitch the longer you hold the button, but what I didn't tell you is just how versatile the move really is. It can be used to activate switches, hit buttons, attack enemies, and move around the level as it increases your speed at the cost of control. You can even use the spin to get to hard-to-reach areas. Some slopes are too steep for Taz to go up on his own, but a good spin can make the distance. What's not as satisfying are the costumes. If you find a phone booth, you can enter it to put on a costume, which gives you access to new abilities, most of which are not required to beat the game, and while I appreciate the variety, most of the abilities they offer aren't very useful. I just pass on them unless I absolutely have to use them. If there's something that infuriates me about the game, it's 2 things. First is Gladiator Toons, where you enter a rolling ball challenge against Daffy Duck. Here you must run over these lit platforms to change them to your color. Have the most when the timer ends and you win. Sounds easy enough. Too bad the magnets throw you everywhere. The bumpers send you flying. Platforms won't change colors if you're going too fast. And Daffy rarely ever seems affected by any of this.
Okay, Devil, now I gotcha.
This is such an annoying challenge, and here's the thing, I like ball levels in games. I'm one of those insane lunatics unleashed to actually like the ball levels in games like Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex. But even I find this annoying. The second is the animal control. These guys will stand around each level, and if you get too close, they'll swing their net at you. And getting caught sends you to an earlier point in the level back inside of a cage. This is especially annoying in the final level, where it feels like they're placed at the worst spots, and they'll get you almost every time. I almost almost considered quitting this game for this exact reason, but I didn't. Because I don't know, shut up! But when I take it all into consideration, this game is pretty alright. But it's a frustrating kind of alright, where the game could be good or even great if they just made some small alterations, such as nerfing the animal control guys, and most importantly, having a minimum of signs you can destroy rather than forcing the player to destroy all of them to complete a level and giving them the freedom to go back and finish it later. It's not a bad game, and I might play it again sometime. But I probably won't beat it again.